Well, a very good evening to you, race fans. Welcome back to Alliance Sim Racing's V8 Supercars series. This is round 4 of Season 5, and tonight we head to the Pacific Northwest of the United States and the technical twists of Portland International Raceway. This track is one that's sure to impress tonight, I'm sure. Fast transitions, some heavy braking zones, which we know the Gen3 Supercars love for overtaking opportunities. And of course, we're including the full circuit tonight with that Turn 1 chicane. it's going to be a circuit that keeps these drivers absolutely on the edge. So I hope you're looking forward to it as much as I am. My name is Jared Cole. Joining me in the booth once again tonight is Josh Harris. Josh, we've had some high-speed classics. We've had a bit of concrete chaos already this season, and now something that requires just a little more precision and discipline. Your thoughts on Portland?
Good evening, Jared. Good evening, everyone out there joining us tonight in the world of YouTube. Thank you very much for having me. Portland's interesting, Jared. I'm new to Portland. Only grabbed the track last night. Did my first ever laps today. I think my initial impressions that I would say is chaotic. Turn one is it's going to take a lot of commitment to get it right. Easy to do when you're out there at the moment on lone qualifying. Far more difficult when you're in a train of cars. Also one of the only decent braking areas for passing, and I'm genuinely nervous that trying to get 100% of your passing done into turn one is going to end up in a position where that means that 100% of your chaos is also into turn one. Other than that, Jared, I don't know whether you really took a huge amount of notice, but outside of the very slow turn two in the centre of the chicane, only one other genuine decent left-hander on the whole track. That means that the left-hand tyres doing all of the work around all of the right-hand corners are bound to suffer one pit stop tonight, Jared, across the three races. The drivers can choose whatever race they want to do their pit stop in, and I guess where I'm getting at is with all of the stress that the left-hand tyres are going to be under, constantly for 16 laps of these races, that one pit stop is going to become really important to use as a strategy play to get the most benefit from it. The last thing that you would want to do is play it at the wrong time, not get any benefit from it, and then have to fight the rest of the night without that little strategy wildcard up your sleeve.
I mean, the alternative view to that, Josh, that I'll put to you is that given the turn one chicane is such a nasty piece of work as far as chicanes go, I reckon there's a fairly good chance that most of this field is counting on getting that compulsory pit stop done under a safety car. Thanks to that first chicane, the real trick will be surviving the chaos to actually be able to get around and take your pit stop. I think if they can manage that, then that's probably going to be about the best way to do it, because 16 laps is not going to be a problem in terms of total tyre life, in terms of onboard fuel. There's really not going to be a need for a pit stop across any of the three races tonight otherwise, is there?
No, there's definitely not a need to, but we know what supercar tyres are like, and I think that they're going to drop off really quickly, especially those left-hand tyres, and I think, to me, what that means is using that pit stop. Sorry, Jared. Every piece of my last three remaining brain cells just all took 5 minutes off. The pit stop is going to be such a big strategy play, and I think you're right. If there's a safety car, you have to take it.
Oh,
but here's an interesting ploy. Take your medicine race one, whether there's a safety car or not. Race 2 or 3 comes along, everybody dives into the pits under safety car. You go sailing past, waving out the window, and before you know it, you have gained a huge amount of track position, and you're ready to go, and you're ready to try and hold people off.
It's a lot to think about as we look towards the start of the first race. Qualifying just finishing up in the background. We're only a minute or two away from the end of the qualifying session, perhaps even a little closer depending on just how long some of the drivers take to finish off their last. Let's take a quick look at the championship standings, and as we roll on into round 4, the battle's starting to take real shape. Wayne Walker leading the way with 849 points, but Ken Latta hot on his heels, 817 points after a standout round at Long Beach. And then not far behind, of course, Jamie Dyke on 777. Just keeping that pressure on and waiting to pounce if those front two slip up. Don't count out Matt Vanderkraan in 4th either. Rain Campbell's had a good showing that just hasn't transferred, or translated rather, into more points than where he sits right now. And of course, you've got a few wild cards just outside that that lead group. You know, Scott Gamble quick, Mark Poynton quick, Stephen Varga quick. I mean, really, all of this field is pretty quick. So it's a case of who will get the passing done and pick up the points here tonight. Being spread across 3 races means that there'll be equal points across all 3 races. So great opportunities for people to take a fair share of some points this evening, particularly with those reverse grid situations. We are just about ready to take a look at the grid for race 1. Josh, any thoughts before we get to that on how this championship is starting to shape up? Any particular favourite that you're backing at the moment?
No. Look, Wayne Walker's quick, but like you said, everybody here is quick. It's still pretty open. There's drop rounds to take into account, 8 more races, all those sorts of things. What I would say, as you do start to look at tonight's results, the driver in pole has a quarter of a second gap. They've got a 0.27 second gap. After that, though, the field is so tight that it is another 22 drivers separated by the next 1 second. Anything's going to happen tonight, because when margins are this tight, it means that racing is going to be frenetic because everybody's doing the same speed.
Yeah, it will be a cracker. Honestly, this first turn 1 entry is going to be something else. As we take a look at the grid for race number 1, Wayne Walker taking the pole ahead of Matt Vanderkraan, then Scott Gamble and Ken Latta, Dean Logsdale and Jamie Dyke on row 3, Michael Stewart and Lorne McKee just behind them, Mark Poynton and Scott Mackay rounding out your top 10 for race number 1. Andrew Rushworth and Damon Fisher behind them ahead of Clifton and Voga, then Allman and Hall ahead of Haynes and David Coleman. Michael Schroeder and Stephen Varga rounding out the top 20 on track. Troy Sipple and Simon Farrington behind them, then Alistair Bales and Andrew Johnston ahead of Peter Sattler and Ashley Hall. Craig Rose and Todd Martin just sneaking into the top 30 along with Brad Grant and James Hardy. Then David Logsdale not recording a qualifying time, if I'm not mistaken. Rick Varga, Tim Nicol and Tim Lawson, I believe, although Rick Varga does look like he's racing tonight, so we'll get that sorted out, as he was in the safety car last week, so he'll be gridding up in 21st. Apologies to Rick for missing him there. We'll go down to the track and get ready to go while I try and sort that out in the background for us here, Josh.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's cars gridding up now, getting ready to start. Look at that beautiful wide pit lane, Jared. Helped out by the fact that pit straight, I should say, not pit lane. Helped out by the fact that it is also a drag strip. Huge amount of room for these cars to move about on the straight, and of course that is actually just an absolute recipe for disaster here, because turn 1 is not what I would call a big wide corner. So I certainly I can just imagine. I'm a race driver myself. I know exactly how this works, Jared, and what I'm predicting is about to happen here is everybody's going to fan out 3, 4, 5 wide, and then suddenly we're going to be greeted with an incredibly narrow turn 1, and probably 50% of the field is going to go straight ahead through the shortcut because they're just not going to be able to get around.
Yeah, it's going to be a really, really interesting one, and you and I were speaking before the race about just what turn 1 is going to look like here. And I think you're spot on. If I was on particularly that right-hand line of drivers as we look at it right now, I think you've already got to have in mind that you have that escape road there, and you can't be afraid to use it, particularly on lap 1, turn 1, because the risk of trying to get into the chicane, if someone does end up sideways here, and there's every chance they will, it's just too high. It's too much of a risk.
We see the same thing in the real world, Jared, at the Gold Coast, where, big, wide, fast run down into the first chicane. The first chicane's absolutely only able to take one car through it. And so there's kind of a free pass on that first lap. You should try, but if you can't make it, you're free to go straight ahead. Obviously, iRacing's got some slightly different rules around, handing out slowdowns and stuff, but I think the drivers just need to be prepared to save their own race.
Yeah, 100%. As we get ready to go racing now. Just getting word from the starters. Here we go. Green flag wave at the back of the field. The lights are up. Wayne Walker off the front line. Let's see what he can do. We are underway here at Portland, and a very, very clean start right throughout the field as they start to spread out immediately down this wide front straight. We go on down to the turn 1 curve as they come flying through 2, 3, 4 wide. It's an absolute supercar start, and you see already some of the cars starting to to just back it off a little. And I'm not sure we actually saw anyone necessarily take that pit road, which says to me they've actually managed to get through fairly cleanly. Not a bad start at all as the field starts to just get into that racing line very, very quickly. Portland, it's a deceptive track. It gets very skinny very quickly after that front straight, and everyone just struggling to get into that racing line as we make our way onto the back straight for the first time. A big move up the inside. Scott Gamble taking a big look by the look things up against, is that Dean Logsdale?
It is Dean Logsdale.
There you go. And sorry, it's not, I don't know that it is actually Logsdale that I'm looking at here, but fair enough, sitting in fourth, upper position at the moment over Ken Latta. I was actually looking a little further back. I think it might have even been Michael Stewart that I was looking at there, and he's struggling me a little because he's in a new livery tonight. He's come across to 9.5 SimSport as a mid-season team change, so that's going to throw us out for a little while here. Wayne Walker, though, immediately out in front and setting a cracking pace with that clean air out ahead of him.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things that helped Jared, as we see now, the turn one chicane.
Daniel Hall going around.
Whoa, and that was so incredibly close, Jared. What I was going to say there, we can see from this angle, it's a great angle. We can see just how wide that part of the track is. So if drivers will play nicely with each other, there is definitely room to get through that first complex side by side. But as you said, once you come out of that chicane, the track gets so narrow so quick, and there's just a couple of parts of this track that get wider and narrower. This back straight, for instance, that we're looking at now, beautiful and wide, and what a cracking shot this is, Jared, as we do sit down in that sawtooth curve and see these mighty V8 supercars just absolutely smash over the top. They are not worried about this curve at all, or as we see there,
the fence. I've just realised I've got to turn my mic back on when I get excited like that. Ashley Hall just barely keeping it out of the fence there. I think we'll have to go back and have a look at just what's happened, because he went all sorts of sideways.
That was shades of... No, definitely didn't.
In the end, did not keep that out of the fence, no.
But that shot, Jared, that sawtooth curve and seeing the big car whipping around sideways, that is absolutely reminiscent of Fabian Coulthard Bathurst 2010 heading into the chase. What an impressive shot. We just see here cars off everywhere, and we're going to see Hall here go through the tight little, it's almost like a hairpin out the back, and just get a little bit excited on the loud pedal maybe. And as he does turn it in there, just a little bit of wheel spin, and just unfortunately unable to catch it.
There are not many tracks where you will see a supercar bounce back and forth like that from side to side. It's a little unusual, isn't it, to see them just lose grip in both directions instead of kind of back and forth like that.
Yeah, that looked to me a little bit like Ashley's air's come off the throttle as soon as it started to wheel spin, and it's just gripped up and flipped back the other way, and he's had a bit of trouble catching it. That old saying, when in doubt, throttle out, doesn't always work with a supercar, but certainly stops little incidents like that happening.
Does indeed. And a big hello to Sean Vandermeulen joining us in the chat tonight. Unfortunately unable to race this evening. Mate, it's a pleasure to have you here to actually check it out at least. If you can't be in the cockpit, then at least you get to watch all the action with us here and keep us on track. And a good call out, obviously, Michael Stewart with 9.5. Gamble across to Evolution Racing Team is worth noting as well. Actually, we do need to update our records on this end to align with that as well. So he's sporting a slightly different looking set of sponsors as well. But right now, Wayne Walker looking fairly comfortable, opening up almost a couple of seconds over Matt Vanderkran here with Gamble and Logsdale in hot pursuit, as we see a couple of moves happening right down throughout the field, but not a huge amount just yet. Everyone just trying to find their way around this track. It's a fairly new one for them, after all.
It is. It's fairly new to iRacing, and so whether they've raced here or not, no one will have done a huge amount of laps. It's not like a Bathurst or anything else. As we see there, Ken Latta straight into the pits. So I'm not sure whether he's got damage or whether he's been listening in on the broadcast and thinks that I'm smarter than I actually am and is taking my advice.
It's a poor choice, Ken. Poor choice.
Yeah, if that is the case, probably not a great idea. but we do see the first of the pit stops starting to happen. But yeah, as you were saying, Jared, it's a pretty new track, this one, so no one's done heaps of laps, but I think that's kind of fun. You can be reasonably new to iRacing. You can certainly not be one of the seasoned veterans that some of these guys are, and still have a similar level of track experience.
Yeah, it's good fun in that respect, and look, it is a track that I jumped straight onto when it came out and really, really enjoyed it. Again, as I said to you off air beforehand, that was in a GT4 though, certainly not a Gen 3 supercar. Very, very different animals. But that moment where Ashley Hall lost traction there, that little dip that is sitting just off that left-hand curb as you come onto the back straight, caught me out a few times, I'll be honest, when I first got onto this track, because it's really, you don't even notice it's there when you look at it, but it's enough to just completely unweight the car. And yeah, you saw exactly what to expect there. Sean Vandermeulen, out for 6 weeks with a broken wrist, mate. That's look, I don't know. Surely you can chuck it into auto and drive one-handed. Don't know how competitive you'll be by doing so, but no, mate, look after it. Hope it does heal up quickly, and you don't have any long physio sessions or anything like that to do, because I hate those things.
I'm just hoping that one of our non-5 sim sport drivers has chosen the Vandermeulen uniform for this weekend. I'd be bitterly disappointed if there wasn't at least one of their team cruising around in boots and gloves. And look, I'm sure there's something else, but there's not a huge amount else that we can see on the broadcast. That's for sure. Look, rest up, Sean. Super disappointing to see you out with a broken wrist, mate. You were having a good season, and it was certainly a lot of fun. But I've got no doubt you'll be back. Coleman, though, that is unfortunately not the way that our friend from Fishy Motorsports would like to be facing tonight. Not sure, 100% sure what happened there, Jared. I was looking away if we did see it, but a shame nonetheless.
No, we'll go back and check it out. I think it's just a matter of getting a little too excited under brakes and then onto the throttle. And or is it going to be this left-hander again? No, it's that curve every time. It is, like I said, it's a really deceptive curve, that one.
Yeah, it is, and these supercars so easy to make those mistakes in, and interesting to see, and certainly for anyone who might be watching, who's mucking around, playing with these supercars, trying to learn how to drive them, and can't keep them facing the right way. We see, even some of the fastest out there in Dave Coleman, making these such simple mistakes. These are unforgiving cars. These are unforgiving cars, and once you have got the wheels spinning, it's pretty much all over.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And look, it's hard to recover. It's possible, but at a track like Portland, where as you come out of most of these corners, you are headed down some kind of a long straight, and you're trying to get the absolute most you can out of your power delivery to the ground. You're not going to be taking it easy on the throttle at any stage here, really. And so you see that sort of result where, yeah, you go very quickly from a minor slip to completely backwards, flying off into the grass, and somehow pulling it up before the wall. He's done well to keep it out of the wall, as Dave Coleman, but it's certainly cost him. The question is, does he now go and take his compulsory pit stop in this race, or does he try and fight his way back?
If I was Dave Coleman, I would be straight into the pits. There's not much worse that you can do than 25th, and I would just take that medicine. You can only go forward from there.
Starting to see the field really spacing out here tonight, which is honestly a little surprising. We're halfway through this first of 3 16-lap races, and it's really proving to be a bit of a divisive track. This is probably about the closest pack that we have outside of well, not even the front three, but your Vanderkran, Gamble, and Logsdale grouping up there. This battle for mixed with Mark Poynton out in front of it is about as close as any of the cars are on track. Everyone else starting to separate about a second and a half between them, and even these guys really struggling to stay tight on the back of the car in front.
Yeah, I noticed that before, Jared, and I was really trying to think about what's driving that, because I made the prediction before this race that the times were so close in qualifying that surely that keeps the pack bunched up. But Probably the key feature of this track is this area here. It's just, constant load on one side of the car. It's so difficult to get the flow right, and once the tyres aren't in their absolute prime window of being 1 to 2 laps old, it's so very easy, Jared, to make a small mistake. The other thing, as you mentioned, is that typically we go from long, slow corners to fast straights, and that means you are trying to, as you said, get on the throttle, potentially still while turning. All of those things are difficult, although we now see Scotty Gamble really putting the pressure on Matt Vanderkraan. I have a feeling that Matt Vanderkraan is holding Scotty Gamble up, and Gamble's just trying to work out what on earth he can do to get around him. My point, though, Jared, is this track, whilst the times in qualifying were so tight, it may be proving to be so easy to make some level of a mistake, that the separation that we're seeing in the field is just naturally caused by, a little tiny mistake here. It might be a 0.2 of a second on the way out of a corner here, and 0.4 on the way out of a corner there, and before you know it, you've lost 2 or 3 seconds. It really doesn't take that much when you spend so much of your time turning.
Yeah, not at all. And Vanderkraan, look, he's still got a good pace about him, but Scott Gamble's just got that extra 10th or so on every lap, and Vanderkraan's going to have to really fight this for the next 5 or 6 laps if he wants to bring it home in second. Wayne Walker, though, just cruising out in front, almost 4 seconds. The pace of Walker just continues to impress me week after week. He's absolutely on another level from this pack of drivers, and that's saying something because they are by no means slow.
No, they're not. And something that I've just picked up on, Jared, which I think is absolutely incredible. Wayne Walker, from his peak speed, not only has he got the fastest lap of the race, so it's not like he never pushed, but his fastest lap of the race to his current lap time, he's giving up 0.6 of a second, sometimes 7. Matt Vanderkraan and Scott Gamble are often giving up a second on their best lap time of the race. So for whatever reason, Wayne Walker out the front, not only has he got the fastest lap of the race, but he's also able, he has found a rhythm that just allows him to keep lapping far closer to that fastest lap than everyone else. He is consistently 0.3 a lap faster than all of the cars behind him.
That is pretty scary, honestly. If you're chasing him, that's not a statistic you want to be listening to right now.
No, it's not. And
what do you do?
If I am Wayne Walker, Jared, I am pitting probably about lap 9 or 10 of race 3 at this point. I have seen how far the field has spread. Unless there's a safety car, I am going to take what you would assume at this point, short of anything weird happening, would be another win in the second race. Obviously, got to get off the start line and do all those sorts of things, but the pace that he's got is phenomenal. And then you said about race 3, you get the field spread as far as you possibly can, and you dive into pits and minimise the damage, because these guys operate a fixed setup, Jared. I don't know how he's got the pace that he does.
It's Verstappen-like, honestly. It's next level in a field of really, really quick drivers, and that's hard to wrap my head around some nights as we watch this happen. Even as it's going on in front of us, the pace that we see out the front of this pack consistently, and it's not just Walker either. On any given week, it could be any one of a handful of drivers, but we see it so often that someone just gels with a track and the particular setup, and they start to walk away with it. And until the rest of the field kind of latch onto whatever it is that is going on for Wayne Walker here tonight, they're going to really, really struggle to make any sort of dent on his lead. G'day, Phil. Hope you're doing well. Welcome in. And Pato's around as well. There you go. Sorry, Pato. I missed you earlier. Hope you're doing all right. Luke Allman and Rushworth getting into it for 10th as we come on down into turn 1. I think the most surprising thing so far for me tonight as we get into the last couple of laps of race 1 here, Josh, no one's tagged that inside Armco at turn 1 yet. It's only a matter of time, surely.
I think someone's going to get it tonight. You run so close to it. I think one of the things that is helping is the fact that no one's really tucked in the train. I'll tell you, Jared, we will release some secrets. I do race in a different league. Race last night, actually. Shock horror. Yeah, absolutely. There are other leagues, they say. Yes, there are. No, look, I race on a Monday night, and we race at Brands Hatch, Jared, and there's a particular wall at the end of pit exit that comes out at a really funny angle, and we all know it's there, just like turn 1 here at Portland. And I've never had a problem with it in the world. And race start last night, I was tucked right in behind the car in front, and I tell you, I had to think some very skinny thoughts to end up squeezing through there on that race start, because I just forgot all about it. I had no concept of exactly where I was on the track, and suddenly there was a wall in a spot where I didn't want there to be one. That's the sort of thing that can catch people at Portland out too. It's pretty easy. I say pretty easy. That's a relative. That's a relative term,
booth, Jared. It's pretty easy.
It's a relative term. It's certainly the easiest that it can be when you're on your own and you've got nice, clear line of sight. And even for these guys that we're looking with, half a second to a second between cars, you get good line of sight through the corners. And that means that as a driver, you can see that inside Armco, and you can prep yourself for it, and you can get your aim right. When you're racing in a battle pack and you're tucked right up behind the car in front, you actually can't see it at all, and you turn in based on where they turn in, and you hope that they get it right. And as racing drivers, we all think that we're better than the cars in front of us, basically, Jared. And what happens is the first driver turns in, and the second driver thinks to themselves, well, I'm better than them, and that means that they're going to miss the apex by just a smidge. So I'll just go a little bit tighter, and I'll get the apex better than they do, and that'll make me faster, and that's going to set me up for a pass in a couple of corners' time. And inevitably, that's when something goes wrong, because the car in front absolutely nails the apex, and then you're further inside, or you've clouded the wall. So if we see something like a single file safety car restart tonight, that's where I can see some real potential carnage with that inside piece of Armco at turn 1.
Interesting. You've had some nightmares about this place already, haven't you?
Oh, I can. It doesn't take Nostradamus, Jared, to do about one lap around this place and immediately put a big red asterisk right above the apex of turn 1.
Walker and Walker as well.
This is interesting. So I understand the strategy here.
Ike and Mackay coming
Jared,
in.
Yeah, there's a big bunch of them.
That's interesting.
And the reason for doing it so late is that the field is at its most spread out. So the amount of positions that they now lose is the least amount possible. That means that they're gonna finish this race, in the best position that they can, having taken a pit stop, and that's then done for the night. It doesn't matter. Everyone that has passed them, they're going to get those positions back. It's not a bad shout, to be honest, Jared. We're going to see Wayne Hawker's still going to get a top 10 result, which is mind-boggling. I don't think that he's going to be able to make up a second and run down Haynes, so he'll likely get 8th. Matt Vanderkran's in 12th, Jamie Dyke in 13th. That's not a bad result, Jared. He's the end point of that.
You know what's really disappointing, I think, though, for Matt Vanderkran? I don't know what he's done with his pit stop there, but he's done a 7-second stop where everyone else has done 4s. And had he done a 4-second, I reckon he would have got 10th and gone straight to the front. But that doesn't matter too much for Gamble and Logsdale as they cross the line and take 1st and 2nd here this evening. And a long way back from them to 3rd place as Stewart crosses there. Lorne McKee coming through in 4th and Stephen Varga in 5th. I think Vanderkran's made a bit of a blunder there because even though he's recovered 1 position here, he's going to be absolutely kicking himself. That extra 3 seconds would have put him in 10th and on the front row for race number 2 with the reverse grid. That's a shame.
have I missed that we've got a reverse grid?
Reverse 10 in the second race and reverse 5 in the third race.
Right. Okay. So this changes everything.
Doesn't it just?
And
Wayne Walker's done an absolute brilliant move.
Master stroke. Absolute master stroke from Wayne Walker. He has just put himself back into third position for the second race. And doesn't have to pit. He's got no one to pass. Basically, he's got a couple of people. He's got to pass Mick Clifton and Simon Farrington. Without being disrespectful to those guys, I would suggest that probably pace to get around those guys in the first couple of laps while the field is still reasonably bunched. And then he's got the rest of the night to cruise around out the front. And the second race, assuming that he wins or finishes somewhere at the front, it's only a reverse 5. Absolute masterstroke. Matt Vanderkruijden now will be doing everything he can to drive fifth and try and get up the front for race 3, as will Jamie Dyke and other. I forget exactly who ran that pit stop, but masterstroke from Wayne Walker. I'm going to call it right now.
Absolutely. As we jump straight into race number 2, we'll have to take a look at the results for race 1 after this one, because of course with a 3-race evening, we jump straight on into the second race after the first. So Farrington and Clifton out in front. Wayne Walker starting in third is just phenomenal. No two ways about it. Simon Haynes in fourth. Fisher and Vargo ahead of McKee and Stewart, then Dean Logsdale and Scott Gamble, the beneficiaries of the win in race 1, but find themselves in 9th and 10th for race 2. The rest of the grid starting where they finished in race number 1. So Vargo and Vanderkruijden in 11th and 12th ahead of Jamie Dyke and Mark Point, and then Scott Mackay and Ken Latter ahead of Bales and Allman. Johnston and Rose rounding out your top 20. Daniel Hall and Peter Sattler ahead of Rushworth and Vigard, then Coleman and Schroeder ahead of Grant and Sipple. Logsdale and Martin rounding out the 30 with Ashley Hall and James Hardy behind them in 31st and 32nd. It's a whole different ball game with this reverse top 10. Josh, I think Wayne Walker has played that beautifully.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just absolutely dumbfounded would be the word. Helps when you pay attention to the rules and the regs of the night, Jared, because I had entirely missed that there was a reverse grid.
He's been too busy having nightmares about this track and about that wall at Brands Hatch, mate. That's what you've been up to.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I did. Can I just say, at some point in one of these races, Jared, we need to get a close up of Simon Farrington's car, because I don't think we've seen it tonight. And that thing is absolutely spectacular looking. Look at that.
I'm not even actually sure what I'm looking at right now, except that it's Simon Farrington. There's a lot going on that car.
That is cool. That is,
So yeah, it's a shame we can't get a better shot off any of these cameras just at the moment. But there's a lot happening on that
There
car.
is, and beautiful colours, well put together. That's a big plus. Whoever designed your livery, Simon, chuck them an extra slab of beer, because that thing looks unreal. If it's yours, you now have my full permission to buy yourself an extra slab of beer and tell your missus that you love it.
Josh said I could. That always goes down well, mate. Yeah.
Look, no one has ever got themselves into any form of trouble by saying Josh said I could do something. I'll tell you that much. There's the red hot tip for the night.
I have some doubts, honestly. I have some doubts. We're just about ready to go racing here again, folks. Just a couple of drivers still making their way to the grid, waiting on Jamie Dyke and Ken Latter just in the mid-pack, but we are about to get underway, so let's go down to the start line as we await the final go-ahead from race control. I do note that, there we go, Jamie Dyke just getting on the grid now. We should have a green flag at the back of the pack, and we should be just about to see our start lights come up once again as we go for another 16 laps here at Portland. A slightly different looking front end of the field. Watch for Wayne Walker, though, out of third as the lights come up. Here we go. Walker's actually... What's happened here? Walker's dropped back to pits. The start, we're green, we're underway. Walker will be starting from the pits for this race. That is a last-minute change that I didn't see coming, I'll be honest. To make our way down to turn 1 for the first time, are we going to see more carnage than the first time? We do. Here we go. There we go. That's what we've been waiting for. And I think that was gosh, it's a bunch of people caught up in that, but I think it was actually Dean Logsdale, perhaps that got caught up in it right from the beginning. And so we continue on our way around, but it was always going to happen at some point. It was just a question of when. We'll wait and see if we do get a safety car as a result, but it looks to have been, look, as things go, fairly clean, I suppose, in terms of crashes. So we'll wait and see. But geez, that was about what we expected in race 1.
Yeah, absolutely. It is. And only he, or Jamie Dyke had a huge moment in the background there. He has gathered it up, but that was about as close as you come to an absolutely monumental and not losing a position. What I will say though, Jared, only here at Simple Racing Broadcasts and the ASR League will you ever hear a full-blown crash referred to as fairly clean.
Yeah, look, I mean, considering some of the stuff that we've seen over our admittedly reasonably short existence as a broadcast organisation, that was definitely one of the cleaner ones. I'm not saying it was objectively clean, but it was one of the cleaner ones.
Big, that's not clean.
Now, by comparison. Oh, wow.
Okay. I take it back.
You see what I mean, though? Like, in the scheme of things, there are clean crashes and then there's those. But look at this, all of a sudden, because of that, lap 2, and we've got cars going too wide, a quantum car off into the grass in a big way. I think that might have even been...
Ken Ladder. Ken Ladder's been spun there, has he?
He's still sideways, still sliding in the pack, and then we've got... God, was that Schroeder as well?
And then a bad rejoin. Dear, oh dear.
There's a lot for us to try and unpack here as we wait to see just at what point these drivers start to settle it down, because it's almost as if with Wayne Walker starting for the pits, this has just gone sideways. Look at this, we're going to be 3 wide down the straight. Farrington, Clifton and Gamble. Oh, here we go. Here we go, folks. This is not going to go well. 3 into this corner does not work. Clifton makes the smart move. Gamble pushes the issue. Farrington says, no thank you, I've got this. I'm deleting this from start to finish. Simon Haynes sneaks through out of nowhere and looks to perhaps get himself involved in this battle. What a start.
Haynes was thinking about cashing some checks that hadn't been written yet at that point.
I'm not sure if he even received the checkbook yet, Josh.
But he was looking to cash him pretty early. He eyes lit there like you wouldn't believe, and he thought that he was about to get 3 for the price of 1. But fantastic driving. I think everybody sort of finished that last race, ducked back to pits, maybe took the brain out and put the helmet back on and out we are racing. It's fantastic to watch. No disrespect to the guys at all there. A little bit of carnage is heaps more fun on a Tuesday night, Jared, when I'm talking about it, compared to a Monday night where I'm involved in it. I know I really empathise with these drivers, and a few of them will be so very frustrated with how their race 2 has gone. But for us, this has been fun. Oh, Haynes only...
What a place to be stuck.
Only 60 seconds ago was thinking that he was about to lead this race, and now he's in the wall. I hope for everyone else's sakes that is self-inflicted, and that he hasn't been hunted.
It does look like it from what I'm seeing here. I'm not 100% sure, but it does look like he's just overcooked the exit.
No, that's fair and reasonable, and something that can definitely happen here. But what a start! Not what I expected, to be honest.
No, and we've got so much to go back and look at here. I'm not even sure where I want to start at this point, but we might start off. It was indeed, of course, Dean Longsdale getting caught up in it, as Gamble just establishes himself out in front with Farrington and Clifton now trying to chase him down. Let's go back and take a look at what has just unfolded in front of us here, folks. And it all starts here at turn 1. Dean Logsdale gets a pretty poor start to his race, finds himself just really in amongst the pack. And then just too much brake application. All on his own. But then just stopped dead on trying to get underway, get out of the way as best he can. Dave Coleman just waiting it out. In the scheme of things, that actually wasn't too bad compared to what it could have been. But keep your eye here on Andrew Johnston in centre of screen as he tries to get through. You see Logsdale blocking up, and then as everyone tries to avoid it, he actually gets just a slight nudge from the inside that ends up turning him around as well. Chad Vigo getting caught up in that. I think Andrew Rushworth will go back and take a look, because he was even further back, and by this stage, you know, he's had barely any time to react. He's seen the smoke, but just nowhere to go, because he comes through one and has to stop dead to make it around the other. So yeah, look, all said and done, could have been much worse, I think. And Ashley Hall, like all the way down the back of the pack. This is what it looks like from back here. I'm surprised that he didn't look at that and go, nope, escape road, thank you very much.
Yeah, I would have, I think. I've got to be honest, but yeah,
and David Coleman just afterwards, if this is that same curb, I will consider eating whatever hat that I own. It's not. He's just pulled it up there, which is an interesting one.
Coleman's back on track. Coleman may have been doing a redress there. If he's just safely pulled it up, he may feel that he tagged someone. But this is lap 2.
Damon Fisher, Lorne McKee, Matt Vanderkraan, Jamie Dyke, all caught up in it.
Yep.
That was a big one. As we return to regular viewing, finally, folks. Sorry, there's a lot to catch up on for you, and make sure you get a good look at it all. But what an opening couple of laps.
Big shame for a couple of people there. You know, names like Matt Vanderkraan, who, unless I entirely missed something there, was a pretty innocent party, and not a huge amount of damage to the car, but certainly got held up in that for quite a while. You know, Jamie Dyke was affected, wasn't held up for anywhere near as long, but they're only 2 names. It's certainly not to suggest that they are the only 2 that were affected. But just a shame. You know, it is motor racing. You've kind of got to you just live with it. But always so disappointing when, you know, you're minding your own business and you come around a corner and there's a bit of a roadblock and you're left with nowhere to go but jump on the anchors and pull it up. But nonetheless, those guys will get moving forward. If I was anyone, Jared, if I'd have been in any car right now, just my gut feel tells me I would be in Dyke's car, I reckon, because I don't know that many of the names in front of him pitted. I can see him getting 3 spots in this race as people go to the pits, Jared, and snag a 5th, start on pole for race 3. Not a bad way to go about your night.
Not bad at all. Although part of the joy of all of what's been going on for a lot of these drivers, take a quick look at these numbers in terms of moves from the start of this race, and you'll get a feel for just who's managed to survive the carnage. Scott Mackay up 12 spots, Daniel Hall up 15, Andrew Rushworth we're watching now up 12, along with Sattler behind him up 10, Troy Sipple up 15, Brad Grant up 13. You know, survival is sometimes the best way to get yourself up into that top 10, top 15. Just making Absolutely. It through some of the carnage. By comparison, obviously, a lot of drivers who unfortunately find themselves a long way down the field as a result of all of it. But there are winners and losers in every race, aren't there? Mick Clifton comes in for his compulsory stop. So the first of those drivers you mentioned before, Josh, who were out in front of Jamie Dyke but haven't done their compulsory pit stop just yet.
Yeah, absolutely. And probably apologies. We say this every time that we have one of these races, Jared, where only, you know, some people... you only need to pit in one of the 3 races. I didn't
software
write it
doesn't
down.
keep track of that. and you think by this point we would have found a way, short of pen and paper, to keep track of it. But unfortunately not the case.
No, and I only realised about the start of race 2 when race 1 was over. So yeah, look, some of the people in front of Jamie Dyke might have already pitted in that race 1, and I just don't remember it. But certainly, you know, a pretty good spot for him to be, I think. But you know, look at this. We talk about, you know, not a huge number of battles that were going on. That looks to me like Scott Gamble behind Farrington.
No, that's Mackay. Scott Mackay behind Simon Farrington. So the other English racing team.
Correct.
Yeah, this whole you know, new paint scheme thing for Scott Gamble out in front is just a tad confusing for us, but we'll wrap our head around it. This whole mid-season change of teams is a whole other thing. at this
Not
point.
a massively smart man, Jared. Simple things will confuse me.
Just give him plain colours, please, folks. It's about the limit of what he can keep up with here on a Tuesday evening. But Farrington Mackay, yeah, still going at it. And further back through the pack, check out this battle that's going on for 12th, really. Sipple out in front. You've got Grant, you've got Vanderkruijs and Chad Vygaard caught up in it. Who here is surprised at all? Oh, Scott Gamble. Scott Gamble has had a big moment. What's happened? He's pulled it up. I'm not sure what's happening. Why is what has gone on for Scott Gamble?
Who knows?
That is bizarre.
Simon Farrington has just called in an incident too, Jared, and I'd just be interested to see what's happened there because
Farrington's had a moment. Yeah, he's disappeared. Absolutely disappeared down the order into 5th. We'll go back and we'll take a look at that in just a moment. I'm just keenly watching the fact that we've got Tim Lawson from Race Control sitting in the safety car at the moment, and I'm desperately looking for why that would be. I can't see any concern as Vanderkruijs sends it up the inside of Brad Grant into that turn 1 chicane and straight out the other side. So he's back on pace and looking in fine form. Simon Farrington continues. Let's go back and take a look and see what's happened here with the pass. This is Scott Mackay into the back of Farrington, I think, here. And this is happening while just up and around the corner. Yeah, big bit of contact there that's put Farrington sideways. So, of course, Farrington calling that in for Race Control to have a look at. I still can't understand what's happened for Scott Gamble, why he's just given up his 10-second lead.
No, you would assume some sort of a hardware issue. I certainly know, Jared, I used to have a problem with some of my hardware where I had to, as we see there,
Vanderkruijs and Sipple getting a little bit elbows out.
Yeah, absolutely. Vanderkruijs thought about sneaking around the outside, and Sipple probably just quietly suggested that he just check whether there's actually room for him to sneak around the outside when there's a big fat concrete wall there. I used to use a reasonably popular piece of hardware, Jared, and probably once per race night I would have to reboot that piece of hardware. It's a pretty common issue. And what that used to mean was I could get away with it on a straight if I sort of, came off the racing line and just let my car coast along. It only took probably 5 or 6 seconds to do. Wouldn't at all surprise me, just based on what we saw. As we see there, Mark Poynton, great catch in the end, thought about having a crack at Simon Farrington and realised way too late that he was going to have to grab a whole heap of brake and bail out of that, locked the rears and slid it all the way into that tight right-hander out the back of the track. If we have a chat with Scotty Gamble later on, of course we'll ask Jared, but I would not be surprised at all if that was a little hardware issue that he had to reset.
It must be coincidental, I'm sure, as Vanderkruijs takes the opposite side here and tries to press the issue just a little further with Sipple, but still the positions remain unchanged. Lap 12 coming to a close here, or rather just getting started. A big moment in the background for Brad Grant, so he's going to have to get underway again. But keep an eye on these three, Sipple, Vanderkruijs and Vygaard, some of the old guns really here in the ASR League, going at it as always. Very odd to see that what appears to be, as you say, a hardware issue for Scott Gamble has happened at, if I'm not mistaken, almost exactly the same spot that we saw David Coleman stop for no particular reason.
Yes.
That's weird.
You are right. That could be coincident. It could, maybe it's not.
Does Portland break hardware? Huh. Very strange. Very strange.
Very strange. Very strange. Portland breaks hearts.
Oh, it does. I don't know about hardware. It certainly breaks hearts. Jamie Dyke, though, absolutely looking to make his move here on Simon Farrington and perhaps break one more hard here at Portland tonight. Can't get a look in just yet, but absolutely all over the back of that rear bar. He's also got Luke Allman with him as well, though, so keep an eye on this as we get down towards turn 1. And probably a good opportunity, actually, for us to go on board with Luke Allman and get a really good view of just what it's like coming into turn 1 with a little bit of traffic ahead of you. And you can see just how close they are pushing it to that Armco. There's no space there for error at all. And we can see a whole lot more from this position than Allman will be able to see from his driver's seat, simply from the roll cage and that A-pillar. It's look, it's certainly one that I prefer being in a left-hand drive car for.
You got no sense of adventure, Jared.
Look, there's a little bit of that, I won't lie.
No, it's definitely easier. It's definitely easier to pick from a left-hand drive car. But you know, that's half the fun of these things. They present their own unique challenges. There's plenty of corners around the world where being in a right-hand drive car is better. So I don't think there's any right or wrong reason to it. You get very used to it. What I would suggest is probably not the sort of track where you want to jump quickly from right-hand drive to left-hand drive. That may present a little bit of a challenge.
Yeah, no, pick a side of the car and stick with it is definitely my advice at just about any racetrack, really. I very, very rarely find myself dropping into a right-hand drive car these days.
There's not a huge amount of them on the surface, to be honest. So that's
not,
it's not,
which is a shame.
That surprising. It is.
Mark Poynton, a big lockup. He was really thinking about a bigger move there on Luke Allman. In the end, deciding perhaps just a fraction of a second too late to back out of it, and lucky to get away with it. He's now got to deal with Rushworth, of course, closing in behind. But Jamie Dyke just ahead of this little battle here, still all over the back of Simon Farrington. And yeah, it doesn't look like letting go of it anytime soon. So we'll see if he does manage to put a move on. Scott Gamble starting to just re-establish that little bit of that lead out in front. I'm still thoroughly confused as to what's happened for him to make that random stop on track and go from 10 seconds ahead to absolutely naught.
Maybe, Jared, it was just that he was a little bit bored at 10 seconds ahead and thought he'd bring everyone back up to him.
I'll be honest, it's not something that I'd generally attribute to any of these drivers, that they would feel bored by the idea of being out in front like that.
No,
I mean, it's entirely
like
possible.
That I would do, but
it's possible, I suppose. If Gamble's taken to doing everything he can to bring a bit of extra excitement to our screens, and I won't say no, but it does seem like Jamie Dyke now sends it up the inside at turn 1, gets himself well alongside and cuts
that's a great
that corner.
Move.
Yeah, huge
That's a
move on Farrington.
fantastic move.
Gave Farrington no choice but to leave him the space there, because of course if Farrington decided to push Jamie Dyke too hard, Dyke got a wall backing him. Farrington's got not much at all out on the left side there, so no other way that would have gone.
No, that was great drive off the last corner for Jamie Dyke there. Really positioned his car nicely. Got on the brakes at the appropriate time and executed a really nice pass. It's a great passing opportunity. Big stop, sixth all the way down to second, but pretty difficult to do. And he just showed the people around him, if you want to pass into turn 1, this is probably how you need to do it. And pretty evident that Farrington was holding him up. He's already bolted out to, 0.7 of a second. I think that he'll pull another couple of tenths this lap, as we do see our drivers starting their final lap of race number 2, and surprised by the lack of pit stops from out the front. I've got to be honest, Jared, I thought that there might be a couple taken, but evidently not. But we see Scotty Gamble still hovering about that 1 second over Scott Mackay. And these guys doing an absolutely fantastic job out the front.
Yeah, spot on. And we stick with this battle. Jamie Dyke now leading this small group around for the final time here in race number 2. Farrington doing a pretty good job to hold off Allman and Poynton behind him at the moment. Just got to hang in there for about another half lap, and he will wrap up a 6th place finish here, which look, he probably won't be stoked with, given the earlier drama that we did see, but it's nothing to be sneezed at either. After a very, very eventful second race, you can already see, though, Allman and Poynton are taking a big look up the left side there. Whether they're going to have time or space to make that move is very unlikely at this stage, as we see Scott Gamble comes across the line and takes the checkered flag and the win. Scott Mackay followed by Michael Stewart. Not far behind at all. Then Daniel Hall crossing in 4th. Jamie Dyke in 5th. Then Farrington and Luke Allman getting very, very close to side by side at the end, but Farrington in the end holding him off. ahead of Point and Rushworth, Alistair Bales and Peter Sattler behind. Matt Vanderkran coming through in 12th position. The interesting one for me, Wayne Walker back in 21st after starting in the pits. It's bizarre. I don't know what's happened, whether he's had a hardware issue or had an unexpected interruption, or he's had to step away from the rig at the very last second before starting this race. But that's a shame, because he was on for an absolute cracker of a night. Now he's got a lot of work left to do if he wants to salvage any kind of points from race number 2 here.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to find out what happened there. Huge disappointment, no matter what it was. Look at that, a race to the line.
Vigar and Rose, 0.004 separating them at the line. Nothing in that.
That's the sort of stuff we like to see. 22nd and 23rd, racing to the finish line. What a fantastic way to finish this race. But yeah, look, huge disappointment for Wayne Walker. Such a shame. Not sure what happened. There's so many things it could have been. Jared, I'm sure that if we get a chance to chat to him, we'll ask. But in my opinion, it doesn't really matter what it was. It's just a shame.
It is. So let's go back and take a look at the result from race number 1 while we wait for the official results to come through on race number 2 there. Scott Gamble takes the win in race 1 ahead of Logsdale and Stewart, then Lorne McKee and Stephen Varga. Damon Fisher and Simon Haynes, Wayne Walker and Mick Clifton, then Simon Farrington rounding out your top 10. Rick Vigar and Matt Vanderkran right there with them as well. Jamie Dyke and Mark Poynton ahead of Mackay and Ladder, then Bales and Allman, Andrew Johnston and Craig Rose rounding out your top 20. Take a look a little further back to the field. Daniel Hall and Peter Sattler just outside of the top 20 ahead of Andrew Rushworth and Chad Vigar. David Coleman back in 25th, and then of course a number of other drivers beyond that who ended up a lap or more down after all was said and done. As we take a look now, of course, at the second race and the way that one's wrapped up after a very, very eventful opening couple of laps. Scott Gamble and Scott Mackay, the Evolution Racing Team entries, taking the max points there for the team with a first-second finish. Michael Stewart in third, not too far behind. Daniel Hall getting fourth ahead of Jamie Dyke in fifth. Then Farrington, Allman, Poynton and Rushworth all finishing very, very close together as they came across the line. Alistair Bales and Peter Sattler there as well. Just finding himself outside the 10 was Sattler ahead of Vanderkran and Vigar. Then Sipple and Grant behind them. Ken Ladder and Mick Clifton ahead of Steve Varga and Dean Logsdale. David Coleman just squeezing in to the top 20 for race number 2. Further back through the field, Wayne Walker managed to make it back to 21st after starting from the pits, so a pretty solid drive there. Take a look at the gap though between Rick Vigar and Craig Rose for 22nd, 23rd. In the end, 7,000th of a second, if I'm not mistaken with my decimal places, and I may be, but nothing in it as they came across the line. Damon Fisher and Simon Haynes behind them, and then of course a fair number of drivers caught up in all of the opening lap shenanigans, finding themselves a lap or more off the pace, but still picking up some points there for race number 2. Josh, that has been a pretty full-on first couple of races. We've still got another 16 laps to go here. I'm not quite sure what to expect, I'll be honest.
No, I've just been taking, just a moment to take a big old deep breath, Jared, and really think about it. That second race started in, all sorts of a way, settled into a reasonable, cool, calm, and collected race. Who knows what's going to come now? There'll be a bunch of people who haven't done their pit stop yet. Scott Gamble, I'm pretty sure, is one of them, starting 5th. You've already copped a 5th place start because of the reverse grid. Do you take your medicine straight away and try and fight through the pack, or do you look at the amount of passing that's happened, or the lack of passing that's happened across the first 2 races, and go, you know what? Doesn't matter when I take it. I'm probably not going to pass that many people once I do take it. So I'm going to take it on lap 15. I'm just going to get all the way to the very end of the race, get the field spread out as far as possible, and take it then.
It's a really tough one, and given that, and again we're kind of going off a bit of memory here, right? But given the number of teams that haven't taken their pit stop in that first or second race, if memory serves at least, I reckon we've probably still got at least half the field yet to come in for their compulsory pit stop. So you'd almost wonder, like if you're starting somewhere toward the front here, but not actually out in the clear air off the front row, you almost wonder if it's actually worth, if everyone makes it through lap 1, turn 1 of this third race this time around, after seeing what happened on lap 2, do you actually come in, get a stop done at the end of lap 1, and then pray for a safety car or an incident to just part the seas ahead of you a little bit and get you back out in front and maximise points that way? There's so many gambles that you can take here when it comes to that compulsory pit stop, and given that they are all pretty effectively just flat out sprint races here tonight, I think really any of those strategies could well be the right one. It's just a matter of chance in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it very much is. We've touched on it tonight, Jared. I'm not exactly the world's smartest person. I'm not the best strategist in the world, and I tend to wing things a bit and come up with all these brilliant plans on what it is. I think that we'll just throw out there that there's probably not a right answer. Some people have picked up good spots from being able to pit early, and some people may have a great result from pitting late. I don't know. The motor racing is at the end of the day as well a sport of chance. There's so many things outside of your control when you race cars.
Yeah, absolutely right. And I think tonight's demonstrated that more than anything else. We've seen a couple of drivers with what seem to be quite clearly hardware issues really, really impacting their performance. So you can plan for everything along the way, but when it comes to getting it on track, I mean, I've been victim of it myself. I think it was only, Friday night last week that you and I were both racing in the same race, where I've had to basically disconnect and jump back in because I've had some issues with my VR headset and had to leave the race to start again and end up 2 laps down right off the get-go. It's just the nature of it. Mechanical failures happen in the real world as well. It's their equivalent. Yeah,
it's a different type of mechanical failure, but yes, the reality is that mechanical failures happen in motor racing, and it's sometimes you just can't help it.
No, spot on. We'll take a quick look at the front 10 for the grid here, just to remind you, a reverse top 5 for the third race. So Jamie Dyke finds himself on pole for race 3, and alongside Daniel Hall, then Michael Stewart and Scott Mackay, with Scott Gamble in 5th, who I've got to say is on track for a cracking result here tonight at this stage. Simon Farrington, Luke Allman and Mark Poynton ahead of Andrew Rushworth and Alistair Bales make up the rest of your top 10. I tell you what, I cannot think what Scott Gamble is going to do here to get his pit stop in and not have it just completely destroy this third race for him. But he's going to have to get the timing right to make it work.
Yeah, he does. I think that's why you get given these. You have to do one pit stop across the 3 races. There's no good way to do it. A lot of other leagues, it's always a pit stop every race, or it's a sprint race and a longer race, and you have to do the pit stop in the longer race. I kind of like the jeopardy that this throws up there. There is no right or wrong way. We saw some of the drivers take their pit stop lap race 1 and then immediately get themselves caught up at the in an incident in race 2. Those drivers who didn't take the pit stop in race 1, they had a great result in race, and then they got to have another great result in race 2 because they started up front, they stayed out of problems, and things like that happened. On the flip side, Wayne Walker was a genius at the end of race 1. We hailed the second coming of Einstein, and he had some sort of an issue and started from pit lane and didn't get to reap any of those rewards. There's no real silver bullet for any of this, I don't think, Jared.
No, absolutely agreed. It's just the nature of racing. At the end of the day, things happen, and even when it plays out brilliantly, as we saw with Wayne Walker, something else can take its place that just throws it into complete disarray as we get closer and closer. We're only a few seconds away now from receiving starters orders for race number 3, so we'll go down to the grid. Josh, I'm not even going to try and predict what we're about to see here off the start.
No, that's probably fair. There's a couple of fast guys in the mid pack. There's a couple of not as fast guys up the front. This is going to be very exciting. That's what it's going to be.
Jamie Dyke will take us away as the lights go out and we go green for race number 3. And immediately a couple of drivers, Mark Point, a huge start there, gets a massive jump as we come down into turn 1. Let's see what we see this time as we come on through. Jamie Dyke will be very happy to be out in front. A big lock up there from one of the Angry Birds cars. And there is Chaos, a quantum car spun around, one of the XTM entries as well. It's Alistair Bales facing backwards, being pushed off screen by one of the Angry Birds cars. What utter chaos. And I'm not the least bit surprised.
No, I think that everyone got through there in race 1 by being very, very gentle and went, oh, you know what, we can probably push harder, and so harder they have pushed. And speaking of pushing harder, I'm not sure whether you spotted it, Jared, but the image of an Angry Birds car absolutely disposing of a car that was facing backwards did give me a bit of a chuckle. Not sure the exact context there. Maybe, as we see a big whack in the background. I'm not sure exactly who that was, but big whack in the background.
Yeah, I missed that one as I was looking away at the telemetry listing of just the number of cars involved in that first incident. As it stands, though, have a look at this. Jamie Dyke, Scott Gamble, Scott Mackay.
Yep.
That's immediately changed the picture out in front as we see Simon Farrington coming in to the pits. I think he might have been the one who popped that whack into the wall. David Coleman is into the pits as well.
Oh, huge brake lock up in the background. That looked like an Angry Birds car, putting out some pretty epic smoke signals.
That looks as though it may be Chad Vigar who's ended up facing backwards, or almost gets going into David Logstaff from Team AJR.
I'll tell you what, great flick spin though.
Yeah, can't take that away from him in the slightest. It's not something you want to have a lot of practice at, but you'll be grateful when you do find the occasion for it.
Hang out with me, mate. I get plenty of practice doing flick spins. That's what practice is for. I do like to keep them in practice, not in the real world. But if you're driving for a supercar, inevitably you're pretty versed in how to flick them around on the spot. As we see, we look forward to this battle packet. You know, the middle of the top 10. It's an interesting way to look at it though, Jared. Middle of the top 10 here for Rushworth, but it is the battle for third. It's a great little battle pack starting to form up, and a number of cars all reasonably nose to tail for what we have seen tonight. And these guys are really starting to want to push forward. Scotty Gamble really catching up to the back of Jamie Dyke, and I'm just trying to tick away some numbers in my head. I don't think that Scott Campbell has done his pit stop yet.
No, I don't believe he has, and so he's going to have to come in at some point. What he's going to want to do right now, for a start, pray for no safety car, and he's going to want to try and get past Dyke rather, and open up again that 8 or 9 second lead that he had, and that's when he'll want the safety car as he sort of comes into the pits there. That'll be the ideal time for him.
Yeah, you're right. I think it'll be interesting to see here just how hard Jamie fights. This is essentially not Jamie's battle. There's far more to lose, in my opinion, if I'm Jamie Dyke fighting Scott Gamble as opposed to just letting him by. But I guess it also depends on whether Scotty Gamble's got the speed to actually close up that last little bit. We've always talked about it. It's one thing to get to the back of the car in front. It's a different thing to pass them. And as we do look up at our to Jamie Dyke did, for just a moment, hold the fastest lap of the race. He was actually quicker than Scott Gamble on that last lap. But Shane Walker, would you be surprised, setting the fastest lap of the race all the way back down in 12th. He has his head down and he is a man on a mission.
100% he is. As we go back and take a look at just some of the madness, honestly, that we saw into turn one, I'm not even quite sure where to start with this, but I think we'll start with Steven Varga as he came in. You can already see, look at the contact just happening along that front straight, and you can see there that Coleman just gets pushed a little wide into him. Coleman gets slid sideways. Varga goes around, gets attacked from an Angry Birds car, who also ends up facing backwards. I think Simon Farrington really copying some of the worst of that, being up in the front part of the pack.
He had a shocking start to Simon Farrington. It wasn't the start that he wanted, that's for sure.
No, and just gets absolutely caught. But that is Alistair Bales being pushed backwards by Peter Sattler. I need to try and find Peter Sattler's view here. Have a look at this one though. Peter Sattler, center of your screen. I applaud this. This is the most efficient way to clear traffic that I've ever seen in any race. Finds Alistair Bales sitting backwards in front and goes, you know what? No, you can keep moving. I'm going to move you out here, and then I'm going to keep going.
And look, I guess to be fair, if you're Alistair Bales, you just put your foot on the clutch and let it happen.
Yep. Yeah, at that point, you've just got to go with it. You can't fight fate.
I will be honest, Jared, when I first saw that accident happening live, and I didn't realise that the fishy car was there, that the Angry Birds car was there at first, I thought that Alistair Bales had somehow grabbed reverse and was absolutely hightailing it out of there as fast as he could. But nonetheless, look, big accident, and once again a shame. I don't know how I feel about these tracks, Jared. It's great to watch, but
frustrating
just ultra frustrating to be a part of. Just and especially you qualify out of say the top 5 or 6, and you grid up and you look at the grid set and you just look around you and you just think, oh, I don't know which one of you it's going to be, but it's bound to be someone. And am I going to be one of the lucky ones that threads the needle, or am I going to be one that gets their race ruined? And it's a shame, but it's pretty fun to watch, I'll be honest.
Can't argue with that. I can tell you right now, I already have plans. Matt Vanderkraan gets it a little bit loose, just holds it. That was brilliant car control, because he was about to be into the grass and potentially into the wall there. It gives Rushworth an opportunity, but Vanderkraan so composed, immediately back onto his racing line and holds it at bay. I am already planning the YouTube short that goes along with Alistair Bales getting pushed backwards, and there's a certain ludicrous song that I've got in mind that's going to fit it perfectly, my friend. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking about, and I can't wait to see it. You've got a couple of other shorts floating around that are very funny, and the music on one in particular is not great, so putting good music to this one will make it even better.
You're just upset that you were on that one, I think, more than anything.
I'm not upset at all, mate. That was the highlight of my driving career.
Ken Latta looking up the inside to turn 1. This is proving to be potentially the riskiest move here tonight, because there is not a lot of room, despite how wide the track is, to get through there side by side. But he's made it work for the moment as Walker gets involved and gets through on Allman as well. So look, Allman losing 2 positions in quick succession. At the moment, though, Latta and Walker, we know they're both very, very quick. Some of your top contenders in the championship, so they've got some work to do back here in 9th and 10th, but they're up 7 and 11 respectively, so certainly looking to get it done. Wayne Walker has a big look up the inside of Latta. Latta's got to be careful on that curve. A little bit of side-to-side action there. A little bit of elbows out racing. Why not? Thank you very much. Take a look at just how close Walker was threading to the wall on the right-hand side there. Watching him in practice was a scary, scary thing, and he's doing it again here at race pace, just using every inch of the track that he can, and it's paying dividends.
It's definitely someone who's very comfortable with the car that they're in. They know how wide it is. That can sometimes be a challenge in sim racing, because most of us run on some form of monitors that don't provide that same depth perception. But certainly, a pretty cool place for him to be able to be putting it so close to various walls. I'm pretty stoked that he can do it, because it certainly makes all the viewing far more enjoyable for us.
Absolutely does. Daniel Hall still managing to just hold on to the front end of this battle for third. He's got Scott Mackay right on his tail, Vanderkraan behind that, then Rushworth and Stewart both involved as well. This pack just charging through. Meanwhile, out in front, worth noting that Jamie Dyke's still managing to hold off Scott Gamble. And that's, as you said before, you'd be tempted to let Gamble through, given that he's still got to make a pit stop. But the longer that Dyke can hold him up here, the better the opportunity that he's going to have to just extend the lead. And he's actually going to hold Scott Gamble up, which will improve the chances for his teammates further down the pack in terms of getting points at the end of this race session.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Jamie Dyke has an obligation to, especially his teammates, to keep Scott Gamble behind him for as long as possible. Jamie Dyke also has every right to race his race. There is no obligation to move over. I think the key thing for me, Jared, is the last thing that we would want to see is the race win affected by these guys battling. So, I think that Jamie Dyke needs to make sure that he plays this game sensibly, and we do see him there. He has a bit of a moment under acceleration, so he is certainly not dilly-dallying around. And you see here now he takes a really defensive line, and with 3 wide in the background, we see. Who is that?
Daniel Hall and Matt Vanderkraan coming together there as well. I just noticed that Scott Mackay's gotten through on Daniel Hall, so now Vanderkraan wants to follow him, and Hall under immense pressure from Vanderkraan.
And Scotty Gamble got through on Jamie Dyke as well, so that little mistake that Jamie made just gave, just threw the door open for Scotty Gamble, and I think that Jamie's done the right thing there. He's inevitably let him through. You want to defend, but not too hard. So you see here, Scott Gamble holds himself on the inside. Great move to be able to hold there, and of course just forces the door open. Pretty aggressive pass there, and certainly, in my opinion, not the sort of games that Jamie Dyke wants to be playing. You just let Scott Gamble go now, and you wait for that pitch.
Now, something we've just missed in amongst all that, Matt Vanderkraan's run well off track. This group that we had of 3 or 4 has now become a group of, if I can count them, 9 drivers with Vanderkraan at the back of this one. So you've now got Daniel Hall out in front of this pack. Scott Mackay sort of starting to disappear off into the distance, but take a look at these guys going side by side down the back straight. This is going to end in tears for somebody. Mark Poynton doesn't think it'll be him. He continues to push and sends Ken Latta to the outside with Luke Orman and Mick Clifton behind them. This has gotten very, very tight through this mid-pack, and this is a group that extends all the way from 4th down to Vanderkraan in 12th. As Latta now looks back up the inside of Poynton, he wants that spot back. He's going to try and get it done here. Forces Poynton to the outside of turn 1. And Poynton just has to back off far too much to keep the pace up through that chicane. Latta reestablishes his position for the moment, but Poynton will be planning, I'm sure, another offensive here. We might just go back and take a look and see just what happened to Matt Vanderkraan there. A bit of contact there with Daniel Hall, and then what happens to Vanderkraan? Big lock-up, sends himself very, very wide.
That's
it's uncharacteristic.
It is. It's definitely uncharacteristic. Matt Vanderkraan obviously hasn't been the fastest driver on track this year or this season, but typically, a very safe set of hands, and not someone that we attribute a huge number of mistakes to. So, surprised to see, but just shows, in my opinion, how hard he's having to push to really keep pace. Lots of people have improved around him, that's for sure.
If you're Alistair Bales right now, as he looks to step aside and let Chad Vigar through, how much would you be terrified to see an Angry Birds racing livery anywhere near you after being so unceremoniously shunted backwards off the track after that turn 1 incident? He gave Vigar so much room there to get through. Mark Poynton is now side by side as Orman makes the move past him. Orman, though, will have the outside run as we get into this long, sweeping complex of right-handers. Poynton regathers, puts himself back up into 9th, and continues to lead this pack. The 2 packs starting to separate out a little now. You've got Hall, Rushworth, Walker, Stewart, and Latta running up in the pack ahead of this, and then Point and Allman, Vanderkraan, Logsdale and Clifton, as Logsdale jams it up the inside, tries to get the power down. Unfortunately for him, Clifton's going to have a better run here, but he uses every bit of that track, which is not a slowdown here at Portland, I will say.
So not off track either, Jared.
No, it's one of those weird ones. You just ignore the white lines completely.
Yep, 100%. The fence represents the track limits, and the white lines are just a funny joke.
Yeah, the fence is one you can't ignore, just for the record. You've got any concerns about that? No, we absolutely have to pay full attention to that fence. I suppose.
Give it
a nudge. Give it a nudge here and there.
It doesn't move. It doesn't move. That's the thing. You will lose.
But you're willing to give it a shot.
Absolutely. Out the front, I noticed Jamie Dyke is going with Scotty Gamble. So not maybe the old pace that we thought Scott Gamble might have. But Jared, just like the other races, these guys 6.4 seconds on Scott Mackay. So there is definite pace in these two cars. And I think lap 13, I reckon you've got another 2 trips around this joint, and you'll see a bunch of cars come flying into the pit.
Scott Gamble included, of course. So Jamie Dyke.
Unless we've missed something.
Look, it's entirely possible. We miss a lot. We're not the sharpest tools in anyone's shed, but I'm relatively certain that Jamie Dyke has made his stop, his compulsory stop here tonight. As we jump back and see a bit of argy-bargy, Ken Ladder and Michael Stewart getting into it on the final turn and onto the straight. Ladder wants to set up for this turn 1 attempt, and here he goes, takes a big look up the inside. Is he going to have the pace down the straight late on the brakes to force the issue? Stewart's going to just cede a little bit of space there, and Ladder will weave his way on through and start to look and see if he can reel in Andrew Rushworth up ahead.
Yeah, nice move there by Ladder. That's a great example once again of how to get that pass done on the way into turn 1.
Yeah, it's a really tough one, but you have to be brave under brakes. You have to force that other driver who's decided to take that standard racing line. You've got to force them to just give up the space ultimately, and it's one of the few corners where once you commit to a line, you really can't. You can't do anything other than extend your line. You can't pull it in tighter as that driver outside. There's no room to do it.
No, absolutely. Of course, if you can hang tough and you're literally side by side through the first bit at turn 1, you will hold the inside for turn 2. But it's all
so
about
fast.
Yeah, it does. But of course, you get the priority to the apex of turn 2. The trick is, being able to hang tough. While the car on the outside is trying to outbrake you. It's a big ask, but of course if you can do it, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, big ask, and certainly not something I'd be looking to do. I like my car in one piece and actually finishing off all of the laps if possible. And I can tell you what, no matter how good the driver behind the wheel might be in the other car, it's me I'm worried about when I'm out on track.
It's you I'm worried about when I'm out on track.
Yeah, that's very reasonable. Very reasonable, mate. Especially in a Porsche Cup car. Mark Point, Luke Allman and Matt Vanderkraan all tied in close together. Take a look at this though. Jamie Dyke is all over the back of Scott Gamble. Gamble will have to be coming into the pits on this lap. It's going to have to happen.
There's one of two things that's going to happen here, Jared. Gamble comes into the pits and we were right, or Gamble does not come into the pits and it proves that we're not as smart as we thought we were. Time will tell. What do we see here? And as expected, Scott Gamble straight into the pit. So I am glad that we didn't entirely miss that. It makes sense to me, Jared, to wait until lap 15. The field is spread as far as possible. You minimise the damage, and you get back out there and finish your race. But must be a pretty humbling experience to get all the way to the 3 of the night, knowing you're fighting for the lead and just know you're going to have to take that medicine at some point soon. It would be disappointing for Scott Gamble, no doubt about that. And I'll tell you, Jared, we saw Wayne Walker in the first race. He got out and finished 8th. Scott Gamble's already down to 14th. Whether they, whether you realise or whether it felt like it was much or not, the amount of time that Jamie Dyke held Scott Gamble up for definitely had an impact on the overall result of this race.
Yeah, absolutely did, because of course I think if Gamble had his way out in front, that gap would have been far more than 7 seconds by the time they got to that point.
And of course, Jamie Dyke is in the championship hunt. Ken Latta is in the championship hunt. They're both fishy cars. It makes a huge difference. Obviously, they're both going to finish in front of him, but pushing him back down to finish in, say, 13th instead of finishing in 8th, they might be the championship points that one of those fishy drivers needs at the end of the season. I happen to be looking back at Wayne Walker. If you can get a replay of that, Jared. Wayne Walker just put on the best drift show out of the last corner I've seen in a long time. That was a fantastic way to finish.
I reckon we'll probably find a way to go back and check it out, I'm sure. As we see Jamie Dyke cross the line, take the win in race 3. Scott Mackay in second, Daniel Hall in third, and Wayne Walker recovering to 4th, up 17 positions, is absolutely massive.
Yeah, and absolutely deserves to put on a bit of a show as he crosses the finish line, because up 17, I think you said, that is just such a fantastic result. We do see now this looks like the entry onto the pit lane, onto the pit straight, if I'm not mistaken, around that back end of the circuit.
This is right at the start of the back of the circuit. So let's take it forward a little bit, because I do want to catch this. Why not?
It was a really, really. I see where now, Jared. It was a really impressive piece of driving for Wayne Walker at the back end of that, and like you said, up to 4th. What a great result. And I think that it's always fun when we do spot these little things to be able to go and have a look and show the team at home, those watching the broadcast, just how good the car control is of some of these guys. I'm here to tell you. Look, I've never had the privilege of driving a Gen 3 supercar, but I know how hard these things are to control. They are somewhat lifelike. And to be able, look at that, you've hit the slow-mo at just the right time. That is a fantastic piece of driving, and would have been so easy for Wayne Walker to loop that around and have a large incident. And instead, he just put on one of the coolest pieces of driving that we've seen in quite a while, and recovering to 4th is such a
huge effort. Huge effort for Wayne Walker to get back to there, but Jamie Dyke, a very, very, very strong display for him in that third race as we wait for the final results to come through. And I think we're there now. Yes, we do have the feature results. Excellent. So Jamie Dyke takes the full points in race number 3 ahead of Scott Mackay and Daniel Hall. Wayne Walker, as we said, going back to 4th is a hell of an effort. Andrew Rushworth in 5th, Ken Latta in 6th, Poynton and Allman ahead of Logsdale and Clifton, then Varga, Grant, Gamble, Sipple, McKay, Lorne McKee, Peter Sattler, Chad Varga. Matt Vanderkraan had a last lap issue and all the way back to 18th, which is really, really unfortunate for him. We'll go and just take another quick look at that and see just what happened to him that caused that one. Whether that was actually a... I get a picture of what's happened here. Or just on the power and just flicks the car around and does everything he can to get moving, but of course he's got to wait for that traffic to come through, so he's lost a whole lot more positions, unfortunately, and not the finish that he would have been hoping for, I'm certain.
Just not the usual night for Matt Vanderkraan, I've got to say.
Yeah, and look, this is one of those things that happens ultimately, isn't it? It's you're not going to be absolutely on the game every single time, and yeah, unfortunately, a track like Portland, it's a far more punishing track than I think a lot of people give it credit for. A simple little error, we see these guys slide these cars through corners plenty of times, and get a little bit loose on the exit of turns as they put the foot down, but some of these curbs at Portland are massively unforgiving and will absolutely spit you out sideways in ways that you never thought possible based on what you're used to at other tracks. So it's it's just one of those things. Let's have a chat to a good mate of ours, Jamie Dyke. Welcome back to the booth, my friend.
How are we, boys?
Mate, that was... There are so many words I have for what we've just witnessed here tonight across those 3 races. Honestly, race 1 was so well behaved and almost a dare I say it, a little bit of a processional kind of a race. Not a lot going on, Didn't you guys make up for it in race 2 and 3 though?
I don't know what you're talking about. That was pretty clean all race.
You might have been.
I had to dodge a almighty Mount Everest at turn 2, race 2. But I still was up 8 from that, so it was pretty good.
I've got 2 questions for you, Jamie. First of all, I just had the pleasure of watching you in my instance of iRacing put on one of the greatest burnout displays ever seen in iRacing. So how much fun did you just have doing skits?
Yeah, I had a lot of fun.
And secondly, did you know that Wayne Walker still hadn't done his pit?
To be honest, after his, I think he was he caught up in that race 2?
You're absolutely right. And sorry, the name I meant was Scott Gamble. So in that third race just then, how comfortable were you that Scotty Gamble still had to do his pit on the second last lap? Did you know that you were racing someone that had to pit, or did you think that you were racing for the race win?
I thought I was racing for the race win for the first 5 laps or so, and then I got told that he still had to do his CPS, and I thought, all right, well, you know, he's just going hard because, you know, he wants someone to race and he wants to get as far ahead as possible before he does pit. So I thought I'd give him a run for his money, and we bashed doors in the last section as he went through, and I thought, no, I'll stick with him, but I'm not really going to put up much of a fight if he has to pit. You know, I don't want to ruin his race or mine, especially mine.
Yeah, we talked about that in the booth, mate. That, you know, I was hoping that you knew and that you were just able to run a smart race, because, you know, holding him up for a while and pushing him as far down the order as you could was good, but you certainly didn't want to get in a scrap and be spun. So it was pretty fun to watch though. That pass he put on you was some good hard rough supercar racing. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, it was pretty good. I ended up making a mistake coming onto that back straight, that tight. I don't know what number of corner it was. It's the hardest corner on the track coming onto there. But yeah, I just made a mistake and he got a really good run, and I tried to squeeze him as much as he could, and he did the same thing. It was massive fun.
Well, fun is about all you can ask for after a race like that, Jamie. I still can't wrap my head around some of what we've seen there tonight, and yeah, certainly looking forward to going back and watching it back myself while we're not having to try and describe it all for the folks at home. But yeah, definitely the sort of result that you were hoping for. In terms of the championship race as it stands now, obviously you're pretty solidly in the mix. What's the plan for the rest of this season at this stage? What are you thinking if we do get a few more races like this? Because that single compulsory pit stop, it's a really tricky one to work into the overall race strategy, isn't it?
Well, it kind of is, but where I started 6th, I was running 6th, and I pretty much told the boys if only 1 or 2 cars pit lap 15 in the first race, I'll follow them in, because then it's you know, it's a 3-horse race at the end. And if they all pit, I wasn't going to pit. And then I thought to myself, I remember Winton where we had the drama with the setup where it skipped the consolation, and I thought like Vanderkrant got a huge bonus from pitting race 1, and I thought, just in case, I'll just pit race 1 and, you know, go from there. And it ended up working out great.
Yeah, can't argue with the results, mate, as we take in a delightful little replay of your own recreation of Summer Nuts there on the drag strip of Portland International Raceway. Some solid points for you overall this evening, mate. Great racing, honestly. Just surviving some of that tonight, I think would have been enough for most people. But you've gone out there and you've absolutely smashed it, particularly in race 3. So congratulations, and yeah, hopefully another opportunity to chat to you again next week, eh?
No, I'm not sure about next week.
We'll see.
Road America is not one of my strong tracks. I'll have to strategize my way in there. But the rest of the season after it, bring it on.
Sounds like something we should be absolutely looking forward to, and can tell you for my part at least, definitely looking forward to seeing what you've got up the sleeve. So we'll forgive next week in advance, but I have a sneaking suspicion we'll still see you in the mix there somewhere, mate.
Somewhere. We'll see.
Jamie Dyke, congrats again, mate. A solid win there in race number 3.
Thanks, boys. You have a good night.
Well, look, Josh, that is certainly one way to wrap up the racing here at Portland. We'll bring the race result up again because there's so many surprises in this. I'm looking at this set of results. You know, Scott Gamble finishing in 13th after leading pretty well all of that final race. That single compulsory pit stop playing a massive part in his results there. Matt Vanderkraan having an absolute shocker tonight and finding himself down in 18th. Wayne Walker, though, to recover to 4th after starting from the pits in race 2, that man is just something else. I don't know what exactly, some kind of alien perhaps, but absolutely just something else.
Yeah, and let's let's look at the reality. Wayne Walker gets a 1st, a 4th, and yeah, sure, in the second race he got a 20th or something like that. But still 2 really good, solid results. And when you look towards the end of the season, if he has a genuinely bad round, this will still give him some pretty solid points. I got to be honest, it's not a complete disaster. It's not as good as it could have been. But I think the recovery to 4th is that's a huge effort. That's a fantastic drive on a track that is genuinely difficult to pass on.
100% it is. And on that note, let's take a look at the provisional standings after tonight's racing as we just take in, as that Dan Hall that was getting into with Jamie Dyke. Either way, it's the best part of Gen3 Supercars some days. It really is.
100%. There's it doesn't matter how good you think your racing is and how seriously, when you end up facing backwards in a practice session and you just spend the next 5 minutes trying to blow up either tyres or engine, it's the most fun you have. There's no doubt.
So let's take a look at how the standings may change. Obviously, there's drop-downs to take into account and all that kind of thing. But as it stands, Wayne Walker maintains his top position, but the gap there with Jamie Dyke and Ken Latta, who have swapped positions potentially after tonight, is still fairly narrow. Scott Gamble finds himself moving up the board at this stage. Matt Vanderkraan drops just a little, but then a few moves up there as Brain Campbell, who took no part this evening in the racing, drops down the board. And so, of course, with the drop rounds, that will undoubtedly sort itself out later in the season. But at this point, Wayne Walker somehow hanging on to that top step.
Yep, he's been pretty dominant all season, Jared. I don't think it doesn't surprise me at all. I guess is probably where I'm coming from. Jamie Dyke just continuing to put points away. He hasn't been the fastest car all year this year. You know, we saw him last season consistently getting wins, but we haven't really seen that this year. It's just been that, you know, you have a look. Jamie Dyke, Ken Latta, probably even Mark Poynton are names. Jamie Dyke's got a couple of wins. There's a reason that he's in second. But those 3 guys in particular are guys that have just really chipped away, and their bad races are still really good. Is probably how I would describe it. You know, Scotty Gamble down in 4th. That's a guy that we've been talking about nearly every race is, you know, up the front and in the hunt to win, but a couple of his bad races have been really, really bad, and unfortunately that's why he's 100 points off the lead of the championship.
Yeah, that is pretty well the story at this stage, and plenty more yet to be written. But of course, that brings us to the end of round 4 here at Portland. Josh, it's been a pleasure having you in the booth once again, mate. Thank you so much for coming along and just keeping an eye on this chaos with me.
Mate, it's my absolute pleasure. I hope everyone had a fantastic night and enjoyed the broadcast, and I can't wait to see you all next week at home.
Let's wrap it on up then. Portland's delivered pretty much exactly what we expected tonight. There was some high pressure racing, those chicanes, particularly turn 1, catching more than a few people out. It certainly wasn't an easy night of racing, but some real contenders standing up and taking away some of the points. Wayne Walker still leading the standings at this stage, but there's plenty more racing to come. We've got Hockenheim, we've got Jerez, we've got the Bend still ahead of us, so plenty of racing left to shake things up. But that does wrap us up here in Portland. We thank you all at home on behalf of Alliance Sim Racing, Quantum Tint Solutions, and AA West Automotive for joining us once again for another round of sim racing action here in the ASR V8 Supercar Series. We'll see you next time as the field heads to Road America for round 5. Until then, take care. We will catch you on the next broadcast.